Well, the next person that I'm going to introduce is a friend, but I made some notes because not only is he my friend, but I feel he's a very, very special person. Sammy Davis is his name. And since the Civil War, more than 39 million men and women have answered the call to serve in our nation's military. Less than 3,500 served with such uncommon valor, and extraordinary courage that they were presented with the Congressional Medal of Honor, which is the nation's highest military award. This evening, we are honored to be in the presence of one of the 85 living Medal of Honor recipients. Sammy Davis joined the Army in 1965 right out of high school. After completing his training, he asked to be sent to Vietnam, where he served with the Army's 9th Infantry Division. On November 19, 1968, exactly 1 year and 1 day after a night-long firefight at Kai Lay, Davis received the Medal of Honor from President Lyndon Johnson. Years later, footage of President Johnson putting the medal around Sammy's neck appeared in the movie Forrest Gump, with Tom Hanks' head substituted for Sammy's. And Gump's fictional Medal of Honor citation was loosely based on Sammy Davis's real citation. Sammy Davis has received the Medal of Honor, a Silver Star, and 2 Purple Hearts. We are honored that Sammy and his wife Dixie are with us this evening. Dixie, are you over here someplace? Is that where I saw you? Would you please stand, Dixie? There's Dixie. Ladies and gentlemen, would you please help me welcome Medal of Honor recipient Sammy Davis.
Thank you, sir. Cool. I appreciate that. Thank you very much. I've been asked to tell you how I learned how to play the harmonica, which happened in Vietnam. According to my mother, there was a 63-day time period when I did not write home in Vietnam. And she became concerned and went to the Red Cross. And the Red Cross did their job. They gathered my name and sent it to the Pentagon. And I'm sure it was probably some little second lieutenant sitting in an office way in the back of the Pentagon was compiling the names of all the bad boys that had not written home to their mothers. And he realized, or she realized, that there were like 50 of us there was only 100 of us in the unit. And I guess 50 of us had not been writing home to our mothers on a regular basis. Now, I personally only thought that it had been a couple of weeks, but well, I didn't know anything of this. I was sitting out on perimeter guard, and my captain at daylight come walking down through the mud and water. For those of you that don't know, captains don't come check on you at daylight. Wading mud and water knee deep. But I could hear him come. Well, I naturally thought it was the enemy, so I'm looking out the perimeter, but then I realized the sound's coming from my left, and I could see that it was a GI from the clothes it had on. When I got closer, I could see that it was my captain, and he had never come checked on me before. So I thought something very serious was about to happen. I thought he was going to tell me the world was coming to an end or something. He came up and stepped off into my foxhole and sat down, and he leaned over and got real close, and he said, "Private Davis." I said, "Yes, Captain." "You haven't been writing home to your mother." And I said, "No, sir." He said, "Why not?" And I told him the truth. I said, "Well, sir, I don't want to lie to my mama and tell her that everything's fine and just make up things. And I don't want to tell her what's really going on around me. And I thought tomorrow surely we're going to have a better day." And I also threw in the fact that I didn't have proper writing material. Down in the Delta, we were always wet. It was mud and water knee-deep all the time at least. So you write materials you tried to carry with you, but it would just turn into spitwads. And truly, we couldn't get stuff to write on. Well, the captain said, that is invalid. Those that are writing home are using the box tops from the C ration boxes like postcards. It works very well. I suggest you try it, Private. He said, in fact, I don't care what you write on. I don't care what you write about, but you will write home to your mother every day. I said, yes, sir. So when you don't want to tell your mama fibs and you don't want to tell her what's going on around you, what do you write about? Well, I wrote about the bugs. Hey, we had neat bugs in Vietnam. Rhinoceros beetles that were like that long that had this big horn sticking up, and found out if you put them in your steel pot with a liner out that they would kind of joust each other and make this neat noise. Really good. Those were good for 2 or 3 days of postcards right there, just telling today the bug rolled over and I was amazed at the fruit that was in the jungles, bananas. Down where we were is where the French had pineapple plantations, so there was pineapples growing everywhere, all kinds of really unique, breadfruit and papaya, which was really neat. So that was letters. I remember a 10,000-legged worm letter. That was 3 postcards. I put all 3 of them down together, the box tops from the C-Rat box, and I drew the 10,000-legged worm because they were about that long, and I tried to put all 10,000 legs on it. After a few weeks, I got a package from home, and from looking, now you knew better, rather than just run up and grab the package, you knew the sergeant had to call your name and hand it to you. So I could see it laying on the pallet, but I had to wait. Sergeant picked it up and he said, Private Davis, yo. He hands it to me. I thought it looked about the right size as my mama's oatmeal raisin cookies, which she was famous for. And I'm thinking, cool. Now, I was going to share them with my brothers, but I was going to get the first cookie, so I kind of backed away from everybody else. And I'm opening it up, and when I get the brown paper bag opening, or off of it, there was a box, and there was a note on the box that said, son, I hope this helps you be not quite so bored. Well, I didn't know how to play the harmonica, so I just put it in my pocket, went to my foxhole. Within a short period of time, one of my sergeants, Johnston Dunlop, came walking by, and it was his job to check on us on the perimeter. And he said, Private Davis, and I said, yes, Sergeant. He said, your mother send you a harmonica? Yes, Sergeant. He said, play Shenandoah for me. Sergeant Dunlop don't know how to play Shenandoah. What I meant was, I don't know how to play this thing. He said, Private, everybody knows Shenandoah. Play it for me. Well, when an E6 asks a private to play, what's the proper response? You start playing it. Within a couple weeks, and he would tutor me many times during the day and night. We were artillery. It was okay that I played the harmonica all night. If the enemy didn't know where we weren't doing our job. So I'm sure there's somewhere that there's some of my previous enemy that's talking, telling their grandkids now about these weird sounds that you could hear coming through the jungle at night. Well, Sergeant Dunlop volunteered and went out for the long-range reconnaissance patrol, the LRPs, which was an intelligence gathering force in Vietnam. They were the ones that would determine where we as artillery would be moved in the following days so we could best support our infantry. So they'd pick us up by helicopter and take us, 100 miles away and set us down. And then usually just before dark, Sergeant Dunlap and his crew of 3 to 5 men would come in through the single strand of barbed wire that we'd put around us. And he'd find wherever I was at, and he'd say, by this point, we'd become good friends. They'd say, Sam, play Shenandoah for me. He had explained the reason why he loved Shenandoah so much was because he was from Avery, New York, and before he joined the military, he was going to school down in Virginia, and he would drive over to the Shenandoah River Valley when things started building up at school and at home, and he said he had this one, the river made a big horseshoe, and there was a bluff, and he would go out on that bluff and hang his feet over the same rock and look down into the river, and he said, you could see trout in there this big, Sam. And he explained the soft, cool breeze that would be blowing up that bluff. And he said, when you play Shenandoah for me, it just helps my heart find peace. So when he would come in from doing his job and the guys would come in all beat up, he'd find me and I would sit and I would play Shenandoah for him, sometimes all night, just over and over and over and over. Sergeant Dunlap was killed in Vietnam. When we dedicated the Vietnam Veterans Memorial in 1982, I was one of the guest speakers invited to come speak at the dedication of it. I arrived there about midnight, got a hotel, changed into this uniform, went down to the wall. I wanted to find my guys from Fire Base Cudgel, which there's 31 names right in a row, pound 30 east. November the 18th, 1967. I found all their names, went and found my Sergeant Johnston Dunlop's name, panel 50 east, 12 down, right here, standing in front of the wall. I touched his name and I said, John, I'm going to play Shenandoah for you, brother, so you can get some rest. I hope this song helps you find some rest tonight.
Oh, Shenandoah, I long to see you away, you rolling river. Oh, Shenandoah, I long to hear you away. I'm bound away across the wide Missouri. Oh, Shenandoah, I love your daughter. Away, you rolling river. It was for her I'd cross the water. Look away, we're bound away across the wide Missouri. Look away, you rolling river. Oh, Shenandoah, I'm bound to leave you. Look away, you rolling river. Oh, Shenandoah, I want to see great Missouri. You